Okay, and a Shop Dog approved video. We got the car up. Didn't do a whole bunch. The coolant is pretty drained at this point. And I started pulling things down and checking and seeing what else we're going to want to buy. Motor mounts are definitely on that list. And then, boy, wait till you see this tranny mount. Look at that. That thing's pretty bad. There's part of it there, right here, and some of it's out forward. So, obviously, since we're doing all this work, we might as well replace that while we're here. So, let's get that changed. The exhaust is going to get changed, although nothing crazy. We're keeping the manifolds on it because this isn't a hot rod. And he wants it to be nice, quiet, and just fun to drive. So we're not going to go crazy there, but we definitely need new pipes. We knew we had a leak on the driver's side, and well, you can see, literally, that's the easiest leak you've ever going to find right there. You can see it. So anyway, all of that's going to get changed. He's not overly enthusiastic about this exhaust, and it's a little loud for what it is, but here we are under the car. Now, I need to clean all this up. Obviously, speaker wires running under the car is crazy. He did at least put grommets on the plastic air lines, so that makes me feel a little better, but I'm not overly enthusiastic about the way they routed the wiring, so we're going to fix that, especially since they literally used tape as a grommet, which is a big no-no. Once again, tape as a grommet going into the frame, a location known for holding moisture and corrosion. A terrible, terrible place to run wires. So we're going to take those out of there. Not overly enthusiastic about this rig either. So unfortunately, we're not finding any tanks for a 66 Pontiac wagon. So we're probably pulling this one at some point and seeing if we can clean it up and cut it and get a fuel pump inside where it'll be nice and quiet, well protected, nicely cooled. Just always the best way to go if at all possible. It'll cut down the risk of cavitation, which is definitely real being this close to the exhaust, particularly, as it's being used to push uphill. Now, it's not my favorite, and obviously you've heard it when it was running. It's very, very loud. So we'll take care of that. Over time, probably some bushings over the years and that sort of thing. But overall, he said the car actually drove pretty well. You can see the way the fuel line is run with the power feed for it right here. Under lots of tension in some areas and loose in others, which is strange. I think we can come up with a neater routing scheme than that. Especially this funky little bend here going to the filter. And then it was just a hose, just all pinch points, nothing securing it at all going forward. And this was run through this bare metal hole. This is the voltage to run that pulse width modulated fuel pump. So that's not good. Now, when I drop the cover, obviously it's sludgy and nasty. There's a lot in there. But when we look inside, where the torque converter is and everything, I'm not seeing a ton. So while this is apart, we may go ahead and change the input shaft seal on the tranny. We'll know better when we can see. Looking at here, obviously the rear main. That's going to happen while the pan's off and while the engine's on the stand. Why wouldn't we change that? Especially since it obviously could use it. At the same time, when it's on the stand, we're definitely pulling, we're changing the pan anyway. You can see, right when he bought the car, the guy who owned it in Virginia had it in one of those shops with the old, they used to use those ones. It was a big shaft out of the floor, and they'd pick up the car, in the old gas stations. Now, they weren't using that anymore, but the bolt for it was still there. And this car is very low. So they hit the pan, scraped here. In fact, you can see scraped here, hit the pan, dented it. So we've got a new pan for that. And that's probably not helping the oil leaks, but these oil leaks are old. I think we'll be changing the damper seal as well while it's out. He wants to get it painted up real nice, but that's going to give us a chance to really clean up the engine compartment as well, especially since we're pretty limited on options to add air conditioning. We don't want to do a factory style setup. One, it would be prohibitively expensive. And two, I think even finding all that stuff would be difficult. So we're probably just going to do one of the universals and kind of fab everything ourselves. So we got to get that sorted out. And that'll be a lot easier without an engine in the way if we've got to do any work on the firewall, which I'm pretty sure we will. Yeah, you can see the airbag setup that they did here. So I guess at this point, diesel, my biggest notes are we're going to need tranny mount and motor mounts. Other than that, things are coming apart. It's a little here, a little there. Got 10 other things I'm working on, so I don't get a lot of time. But if I had an hour, because I got to go in and make dinner now. But I had a few minutes, and I did pull the O2 sensor, which was black as night. I did wipe it off, but you can see, even wiped off it, this car was rich. But of course it was. It's got exhaust leaks all over the place. The whole reason I guess it was in the shop was they were trying to seal up an exhaust leak on this side. And, looking at what they're working with, yeah, let's just start over. We'll just get that all new. It'll just be a lot simpler. Plus, if we're going to stay with the manifolds, we can use factory crossover concept right here. And maybe even just go to a larger single pipe and a single muffler. That's up to him. I have no opinions either way on this. For what we've got here, I don't think it would make that big of a difference. So yeah, there's the wagon sitting down here. Oh yeah, and this is holding the exhaust now because of course they welded them, clamped them and welded them, so not that easy to just pop everything off and get it out of the way. So whoever did that is not mechanic friendly. So yeah, it's time for me to get back to work. So oh yeah, one other thing real quick. Here is the wiring harness. So there's American Auto Wire's new way of doing everything. And you're never going to have voltage drop, I'll tell you that. And look, a fuse box and a whole bunch of wire. So I get to build all of that. Luckily, we do have the existing engine and light harness already stored. So that'll make it easier for me to map a few of these things out. Plus, I'm going to have to recover some of these connectors. I've got 56 and 58 and connectors. Those are, we keep those. But, some of the shells I don't necessarily have, and some of them it's not worth replacing the shells. But yeah, you can just buy all the terminals. They're completely available. They're not that expensive. It's just knowing in advance which ones you need and having them. So those are easy enough. And then shells we usually also always have. Sometimes I'll spend an afternoon with an old harness and recover various connector shells, because those are sometimes the hard thing to get. Not your, these are easy enough to get. You can just buy those. But some of these goofy 3-pinners and stuff, they're a little harder to come by. So, yeah, always hold on to some of that OEM stuff, because the other end is still being used. Even with all the new wire, we're still plugging into old things. So, yeah, I don't think it'll take us very long to get this out. Pop that rad hose. I think maybe tomorrow I might come out and pull the torque converter bolts out and get that slid back. And we may go ahead and just pull the linkage and verify all the bushings are good. And there's a little rubber thing in here. We want to make sure that's working good. We're going to have to come up with our own kickdown arrangement. And of course, I'm going to change the line to the modulator. And I really want to verify that the hard lines for the cooling are good. I've been burned on that in the past with a pinhole leak. And that's never fun. Yeah, other than that, everything looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the condition of this car. Yeah, you can see up there the little bell crank arrangement to run the brake booster. So, all right. So there's another update. And ShopDog says it's time to go in and have some tacos.